live.
Right?
Welcome, everyone, to episode 205 of the F and Marks podcast.
I'm Jay.
And I am the brightest one.
Always.
Always and forever.
Yeah.
That's a song, isn't it?
It is. So, anyway.
We have quite a bit to get into in wrestling. Just between AEW having their New Year's show, or their first show of the new year, I guess. They're kind of making it into like a two-part thing where they actually have like one night, kind of like what they did with Fight for the Fall and then Fyter Fest and all that stuff this past year. Also on the same night, NXT had their New Year's Evil.
Yeah. Like it's the fruits of the devil.
Yeah.
Evil.
With guest host Dexter Lumis, who I love that guy more and more every time I see him out there. We had two championships matches on both shows. We had AEW's World Heavyweight title defended between Rey Fenix and that overrated mop-headed piece of shit. Number 14 in PWI and number 0 in my heart, Kenny Omega. But we also had Kyle O'Reilly getting a rematch from a few months ago against Finn Balor for the NXT World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah.
Both shows were pretty solid.
You know what? Wednesday was the night to watch wrestling this week. If you watched Monday or Wednesday, you most likely had some issues.
Now, I'll admit, it gets hard to watch Monday Night Raw each and every week because it's just really shitty booking. But I was really excited for Raw this week.
Brother.
I really was, because I really do enjoy the old school shows where they bring back all the old school legends and everything like that. And I was like, how are they going to do it differently this time? You know, I know that Hulk Hogan's going to be there because anytime Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair need to collect a paycheck, they're both there.
Brother.
I was really hyped to see Carlito, only to find out that he wasn't going to be. He ended up like opting out and everything like that.
He probably had to spit in a couple of people's faces.
That's probably what it was. He spits in the face of people who are not cool. Candice Michelle was also not there, even though she was advertised. It was good to see Melina and everything. I love those
little bits of nostalgia there.
Because I enjoy seeing people like Booker T, and I enjoy seeing Hulk Hogan. Every time Hulk Hogan is on the screen, there's it's going to be something good. And he didn't. He disappointed this time because he didn't completely fuck it up like he was supposed to. And I think they did that on purpose, Jay. I am absolutely convinced that they didn't have Hulk Hogan come out there and cut the freaking 20-minute long opening promo like all the other meat shields over the years, as El Jefe would refer to them as, like Roman Reigns and John Cena and whoever over the years. All I wanted was Hulk Hogan to go out there and call it the Astrodome instead of the Thunderdome. That's what I wanted in my life. I needed that in my life.
He could have called it the Silver Dome again, brother.
But a very disappointing Legends night, I will definitely say. Smackdown last night.
Everything to me on SmackDown was kind of fine up until the last about 30 seconds or so. Yeah. I wasn't very happy with how SmackDown was yesterday. And I love watching SmackDown on Fridays. But there's all that. And really, I don't think there was really anything like newsworthy that happened in wrestling this week that I can think of off the top of my head. Well, as far as those little tidbits like that were outside of the purview of the shows that we saw, like that, there wasn't a ton. Just little things that I don't think are big enough to really get into. So
yeah. So I think we just get right into the wrestling.
Yeah.
So since we were talking about Monday, let's start with Monday Night Raw.
It was Legends Night.
It was absolutely Legends Night. My favorite part about Monday this past week was the segment in the beginning, and there's a bunch of chaos and everything, and out comes Teddy Long. And he does what Teddy Long does best. Well, Teddy Long does one of two things best. He either makes these makeshift tag team matches, or you go one-on-one with The Undertaker. I love the fact that he put them in a match with The Undertaker on Monday. I thought that was a very nice wrinkle to everything, and
seeing Teddy Long out there, I love Teddy Long. I've been of his for a long time. Well-deserving Hall of Fame things. So I was happy to see Teddy on Monday.
You know, at any time they get Teddy Long on, you know, I always go back to his time in WCW when he was with Doom, and heck, that dude's had like every job in the wrestling industry. He was a referee for a while. He's kind of done everything and anything. And, you know, when they, you know, released him a couple years back, it's like, poor Teddy Long. But you know what? Everybody and their mother remembers that Teddy Long made tag team matches and matches against The Undertaker, and they sit there and they fed completely into that nostalgia. It was great. So
I agree with
for that
with Chris Brown. It's like, you know, they bring out the legends and have them stand at the top of the ramp, and it's stupid that they do stuff like that. You know, in the backstage segments, it's like, oh, good, you know, you see the one where they had like all the legends were like just basically winning the 24/7 title not too long ago. I think it was the 30th anniversary of Raw, if I'm not mistaken. You know, where, you know, Alundra Blaze and
it would have been the 25th.
Was it the 25th?
Yeah, because 30th anniversary of Raw is not for another like 3 years.
Okay, so I'm sorry. So you're right. It was the 25th anniversary of Raw, and, you know, like Alundra Blaze wins the title, and then she goes and she's about to throw the title in the trash, and Ted DiBiase buys it from her. I love shit like that because it, you know, it kind of just plays into it. But, like, you know, because one name in particular that really stood out for me that they announced, obviously other than Carlito, was Tatanka. I love Tatanka. Tatanka was a really good wrestler. Never really got that opportunity to be like that big time mid card.
He was
guy.
never the guy. Like
No.
I think he was Intercontinental Champion a time or two.
But like,
he had the undefeated streak that went almost a year, and back then, like, okay, but you know, he never got to that level.
and most importantly, that, you know, we sit here and we shit on WrestleMania 9 on a regular basis. Him and Shawn Michaels had the best match of the night, and it wasn't even
Curtain jerker.
And they did a great job. And like it ended in, I think, a double count out, or Shawn Michaels got counted out.
No contest, something like that.
But like it was just good to see him, and he really he shined in that. And then like a couple years later, he ends up in Ted DiBiase's $1 Million Corporation, which I thought was stupid that they did that because they completely derailed his career after that.
But they tried to do that as like a storyline where like they were trying to say that Lex Luger was the person who was taking money and what have you.
No, I remember. Yes, I remember that because I remember seeing Nikolai Volkov and like, what is he doing here? And then he had to come out of WrestleMania.
Wait. Was it the same feeling that you had when you saw your uncle, you know, tiling? The same feeling?
No. There will never
What's
be.
What's he doing there?
I'm just gonna stop right there. I'm not even gonna get into that because
that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I even mentioned it to my dad too.
Yeah. So,
but it's just like, you know, I was excited. I was like, oh, let's see what they're gonna do with Tatanka. And all they did was they had him dressed up in his old Indian garb and everything, and he was basically there so that it was Angel Garza was gonna hand the flower to Mickie James, who miraculously became a legend on Monday.
After not getting drafted.
Yeah, after not getting drafted and all that stuff. And I was like, I wanted to see more from Tatanka. If that's bad, then I'm sorry, but I wanted to see more from Tatanka than what they did. I mean, yes, it was great to see him, but come on, man.
Sure.
But, I mean, really, other than that, I mean, the show was what it was. I mean, they showcased all the legends out there. We got to see Melina. Melina still looks good. I'm going to get in trouble for that. And, you know, obviously seeing Hulk Hogan, the whole thing with Ric Flair getting involved in the whole Lacey Evans, Charlotte Flair type of tiff that they had.
Now, isn't this like the second or third time that Charlotte Flair has said that she doesn't want her father in her life ever again?
Something like that. But she doesn't want her father in her life again, just like we're never going to see Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn fight again, even though we've seen it like 8 billion times after they said we were going to get it ever again.
Well, you know, I wonder if, likewise, Charlotte said anything to her plastic surgeon this past time. I never want to see you again.
But
See you in a few months.
Yeah. But I really enjoyed that because I think that Lacey Evans and Charlotte Flair could have a pretty solid rivalry sometime in the foreseeable future, depending on what happens with the women's tag team championships, what happens with the Raw Women's Championship, because a lot of people are speculating that Charlotte Flair is going to turn on Asuka and it's going to lead to them having a match at WrestleMania. I have other theories about that, but
well, and one of the things that was mentioned this week is there is going to be a Dusty Rhodes Women's Tag Team Tournament, and the people who win that will get a opportunity at the Women's Tag Team Championships. So
I'm curious to see if it's just going to be like specifically to NXT women's tag teams. Are we going to see some, like maybe the Riot Squad gets involved in that? Do we maybe see the Iconics get back together, or maybe even Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce team up in that? I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they do it. I love the Dusty Rhodes Classic. I love that tag team tournament. And it's basically because of the fact that I've been such a huge fan of tag team wrestling for so long that
sure,
I love anything that counts with that.
Yeah.
Yes, it does seem like Cardi B will be keeping Lacey Evans occupied for Mania season.
Well, all right.
I don't even have words for that.
Well, you know, they always try to get people who are modern and a big thing on the music scene, and Cardi B is one of the biggest things in the last, several years. So, hey, that'd be a good get for WWE as far as getting somebody who will bring them, publicity outside the norm.
Did you know that Cardi B has a cousin who's into fitness? Her name is Cardi O.
Yeah. Great.
But sorry, I had to do that.
Shocking return to Royal Rumble, Buff Bagwell.
Nobody wants that.
And Mark Miro.
No, nobody wants that either. Okay, so according to Mike Rainey, it won't be limited to NXT only. I think that's good. I think it'd be good to see the Night Squad get in there and see what they can do. I'd be curious to see how they book it, because when I saw that they announced it on Wednesday, I was like, okay, I'm on board with this.
Mike, I just got a call from Judy Bagwell. She said her son is not feeling well, so he will not be.
Did she call you from her house or forklift?
I cannot confirm where she called from.
Judy Bagwell on a forklift match.
Oh, WCW. As much as in general, some of the booking lately, you're kind of like, nothing will compare with the last couple of months of WCW. If you go onto the WWE network and watch any of the Nitros from the last couple of months, it's like they had Ric Flair as the GM, and Ric Flair was contradicting himself within about 20 seconds of saying things, and it's like Ric Flair knows how to talk. Ric Flair knows stuff and knows how to make it make sense as far as the story. But here it was the GOAT fucking up. That's how bad it was.
I mean, you can't even just say the last couple of months of the WCW run. Just look at anything attached to Vince Russo. That's all I'm gonna say. You look at like that title match between Jeff Jarrett and Hulk Hogan, and Hogan basically walked out, and freaking douchebag comes out with a microphone wearing a stupid San Francisco Giants jersey. And I'm like, oh God, somebody just cut off Vince Russo's mic. It's a lot nicer than what I could really say about Vince Russo. Vince Russo tried killing the entire wrestling industry.
Poor Greg Hamilton, man. Greg Hamilton.
He did seem a little off last night. I did pick up on that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's you know what? The dude has nothing to apologize for. People have crap going on in their lives, and there's, yeah.
I wonder what it means, like, we're proposing. Is that not a good sign?
Well, it's saying quote unquote fiance, so I'm guessing that they probably live together, but they're not. He hasn't officially proposed.
I got you.
So
okay, all right, that makes sense then. Okay, I didn't want to read too much into something that's not really there.
right,
Kind of like Judy Bagwell on a forklift match, and a lot of stuff on poles and stupid shit like that. Video show. But anyway, I mean, let's see what else happened on Raw this past week. Anything really stick out for you?
I mean, obviously the ending segment was the big thing here. There was some fun stuff with Miz and Morrison that they did, which I'm wondering if they made sure they kept Melina away from John Morrison. After, I mean, they were together for a long time, but like after they broke up for like the last time, Melina went full crazy and like was posting stuff that you should not post about somebody else,
Right.
Ever.
I did like the fact that they continued on this whole Elias AJ Styles storyline as well. Again, those two had a pretty solid match this past Monday, just like they did the Monday before. The big dude that's with AJ Styles' bodyguard, for the life of me, I'm terrible with names.
It's like Amos or Amos. Yeah.
Wow, he's definitely a polarizing figure, and that was a perfect call for them to give him to AJ Styles. I think he has a chance if he can develop into a pretty solid wrestler. But you got to remember, guys like that big, like the Big Show and El Gigante / Giant Gonzalez.
Great Khali.
Stop. That was enough. I didn't want to even say El Gigante, but I did. It'll be interesting to see how he translates, because I mean he can definitely. It looks like he can get his leg up no problem. Like, you know, Great Khali. And it was like watching me try to get up off the couch type of thing. Watching the Great Khali deliver like kicks and everything.
Right.
But and so far this Jackson Riker thing with Elias has actually been working out pretty well too. So so yeah, that was that.
Right. So there was that, and then Chris is saying, I'm gonna make a guess as to why Goldberg's being brought back, and we can analyze. It's a way to transition the belt from Drew to Riddle with using Goldberg as the go-between. Would you be pissed with the end result? How much of a fan of Riddle Vince seems to be, even though he doesn't get the gimmick?
I'm gonna say this: Goldberg winning is not gonna lead to Riddle winning the championship. I got this weird feeling that they brought in Goldberg to win the title so that the Miz could take the title off of him. That's my whole tinfoil hat theory, is that the reason why they brought in Goldberg, even though it would make no sense. I mean, the whole thing on Monday, like the last segment on Monday Night Raw, didn't even make any sense after the McIntyre Keith Lee match, because everything else that I'm getting. Okay, maybe you should take over on this one, because I just want to unleash the fury on that whole thing. But
you know what? I have zero problem with them using a guy like Goldberg against newer guys to try to give them a bit of a rub, and what have you. But basically, I don't think he should be continually put into title matches. You know, when they brought him back to have that match with Lesnar, originally fine and great. I actually didn't even mind that they put the title on him for a short run when he went against Kevin Owens and won the title. Because that led to that Lesnar Goldberg match that I loved at WrestleMania 33. Beyond that, he didn't need to go for the title last year.
no, he didn't.
He didn't need to win the title last year.
No, he didn't.
He didn't. He doesn't need to be going for the title now. based off of what we saw on Monday Night Raw, Randy Orton, who was the one who actually was insulting all of the legends, should be going against Goldberg.
I would love to see Goldberg versus Orton.
I would too, but Orton doesn't even need that rub.
No, he doesn't.
And Drew McIntyre could probably utilize that more. I mean, McIntyre last year had the match at WrestleMania against Brock Lesnar, and Lesnar put him over like $1 million. It sucked that it wasn't in front of people, and it sucks that they didn't have like a thing like Thunderdome figured out by then. But it was what it was. And all right, so if this is how they're going to use to keep building Drew, so be it. But we shall see. And one thing before you get your chance, Andy, we have not blocked you. We're just not commenting on everything and anything that you're putting up there. We'll talk about some of the silly stuff you're commenting on. But
and there's no way. I mean, we have a better chance of me getting in the ring next Tuesday on Dark than we do of watching Arn Anderson get into the ring in a wrestling match.
Yeah, he won't be in any sort of full-blown match. He gets a little bit physical, but basically he had neck issues that caused him to retire early.
Yes.
And that's why he's limited on his physicality.
Although, I mean, it is. I still say to this day, which is January 9th of 2021, Arn Anderson still has the best spine buster in the industry. He can go out there today and still deliver the best spine buster you'll ever see. I will say that he can't really take too many big bumps. He could do like a spine buster here or there, look like he gets beat up or anything like that.
And when he falls, when he has fallen, he falls more on his butt than he does on his back.
Exactly. So 420 all day. I love it.
That's a different number than your uncle's. Right. Anyway.
But yeah, that really just it bothered me because you see Randy Orton, he goes out there and he cuts this promo about Alexa Bliss, and he left us on that cliffhanger last week, and then he goes out there and he cut the promo and he was like I didn't set her on fire, and it's because the Fiend made me. I'm like, oh Lord, I'm like no, this is not how it goes. I'm like, you want to be over as the biggest heel in the WWE after Roman Reigns, obviously the biggest heel on Raw, I should say. You got to set her on fire. Sorry, you got to do it. So the fact that he showed remorse and all that stuff really just didn't. It left a bad taste in my mouth. And he's like, I'm going to go back there and cause some issues and stuff. And he goes back there and he gets into all the freaking Legends faces. I kind of laughed when he was talking shit to the Big Show though, because fuck the Big Show, that big pussy.
Yeah.
Wants to fucking block people because they hurt his feelings. He's 7 foot tall, over 400 pounds. He could probably squash me like I squash a Coke can.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna make too many face and heel turns. I mean, he already did like 3 of them just during this podcast alone.
Right.
But the whole fact that he was back there and he was talking to all this shit to all the legends. By the way, I love the fact that Mark Henry was there. I love Mark Henry. But he talked all that shit to all those legends and everything. And then McIntyre has his match with Keith Lee. And all the legends come out and they're standing on the ramp. And all of a sudden, Goldberg's music hits at the end. And he goes out there and says, McIntyre, you're disrespecting these legends. So I challenge you to a match at the Royal Rumble for the WWE Championship. And I'm like, bro. Was Vince Russo in charge of creative on Monday? Because that's what I thought. Because that's what it felt like.
Huh. Oh, hopefully Vince McMahon it has his mental faculties enough to not allow the Big Show to have one more title reign. The only title reign Big Show should possibly get is 24/7.
Agreed.
Yeah. But then you have to figure out how to take it off of him.
I forget what happened with Mark Henry. I want to say he had surgery on his leg, and that was the reason why he was in the scooter. I mean, don't quote me on that. Because, I was even reading stuff online, he lost that leg. And I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense. Because I'm like, if he had lost his leg, we would have heard about it by now.
With having as much weight and as big as Mark Henry's frame, and I say he probably had some sort of knee surgery.
That's my guess.
Whether it's knee replacement or arthritis or just, wear and tear in general from being a professional wrestler for, over 20 years, and again, supporting that big frame. So, yeah. Tilly's injury last
Mark
year.
Henry had surgery last year, so that could have been like 2 weeks ago, since it was last year.
Right.
I really don't want to see the Big Show win the title. He's one of those ones that it's like he's like one of the most forgettable champions type of deals. So
right.
So I don't want to see him win the title. He doesn't deserve another title shot. I don't. No. He's not even the worst champion of all time. That's the Great Khali. Anybody who says anybody else but the Great Khali is the worst champion of all time is nuts. I remember somebody on Twitter this week even said that the Jinder Mahal WWE title reign was stupid. And I'm like, what? I'm like, no. I'm like, Jinder Mahal was so good as WWE champion. He got heat like nobody else could. Give me the Jinder. I want the Jinder.
One thing we did miss out on during Jinder Mahal's title reign, we did not get to see Brock Lesnar throw the Singh brothers into the 37th row.
We also didn't see Jinder Mahal versus Roman Reigns inside the Punjabi prison either.
We did not, but hopefully one day.
I
want to see the tribal chief in the Punjabi prison.
It's gonna happen. I could feel it. We're gonna get at least one more Punjabi prison match, and especially because now that there's been talks about this show that they're gonna be doing in India, I definitely can see it happening. Whether it is Jinder Mahal versus Roman Reigns or Jinder Mahal versus Drew McIntyre, I would love to see that too. McIntyre versus Mahal inside the Punjabi prison. I'd love to see Jinder Mahal versus the Great Khali inside the Punjabi prison.
I mean, the last Punjabi prison match involved both of them.
All three of them had the Great Khali in them in one way, shape, or form. Granted, The Undertaker refused to work inside the Punjabi.
So he went against the Big Slow.
He went against the Big Slow, who was, ECW champion at the time.
But that match was pretty good. Better than the Batista and Great Khali match. That was a shit show.
That's why I can't stand it when like Batista talks shit about anybody, because it's like, dude, we had to endure your entire wrestling career. You and your freaking 7 moves that you did, and 6 of them were
right.
Sorry.
Absolutely, Andy. It's too bad Heath Slater is in Impact Wrestling now, so we can't get that magical 3MB reunion. I would love to have a triple threat Punjabi prison match with the 3-man band. So that's just me.
And honestly, Chris Brown, there was really not too many people out there that I would be surprised that they made a return at the Royal Rumble. Speaking of which, I was actually looking because I saw yesterday that they had the updated odds now this week for who is now the favorite to win the Royal Rumble.
It is not Buff Bagwell.
It is not Buff Bagwell. It's also not Mark Merrow either. It's also not Hulk Hogan. It's also not Ric Flair. And it's also not Greg the Bunny. The new favorite to win the Royal Rumble now, because Goldberg is in the title match, Daniel Bryan is the betting favorite to win the Royal Rumble. Not really surprising, because it's like, dude, it's Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan, of the last 10 years, Daniel Bryan is a GOAT and has had a tremendous career in WWE over the last 6-7 years. Reached GOAT status, even though he looks like a GOAT. But yeah, him being the favorite doesn't surprise me. Some of the things that surprise me, CM Punk has a better odds of winning the Royal Rumble than John Cena, Randy Orton, and shit, who was the other one? There was one other really interesting name that I was like, how is CM Punk a better? But at least Randy Orton and John Cena, that there's a better chance. And I said, you know what? I'm like, we have a better chance of John Cena appearing at the Royal Rumble this year than we do of CM Punk. We have a better chance of Petey showing up at the Royal Rumble this year than we do with CM Punk. CM Punk's not coming back at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
But Bianca Belair is still the heavy favorite to win the Women's Royal Rumble, and justifiably, because she deserves to win it, and I think she should win it. So,
we'll see as far as how all that. Yeah, I mean, we have another 3 weeks until Royal Rumble, so there's certainly plenty of time for things to work out a little differently. And, you know, the CM Punk stuff, you know, it's going to be 7 years this Royal Rumble since he last appeared in a WWE ring. And, you know, more or less, he's come out and said it would take a hell of a lot of money and the right storyline for him to do this. And I know in the back of his head, he still would love to be the main event of WrestleMania. And you know, and he said it, I believe, on his documentary too. When he says main event, he's not talking about, you know, as much as I know he has great respect for The Undertaker. When he went against The Undertaker, you know, part of the thing that they used to market that show was that they have 4 main events, and CM Punk was in one of them, and that's how Triple H was trying to sell CM Punk. Oh, you're in the main event. He's like, you know what the hell I mean.
He wants to be.
I want to be the last match, even if he ends up in a match again. Honestly, if CM Punk were to be on WrestleMania and to main event WrestleMania, the person he would need to go against, in my view, would be Triple H. Just because they have a true personal animosity, and it would come through absolutely 100%. Mm-hmm. Triple H would not mind putting himself in that spot. And on top of the fact that, like, Triple H has also been known to be in the main events that actually are like a fart in the wind,
right?
Compared to what was on before, whether it's The Rock versus Hogan.
The dumbest decision WWE ever made. And that says a lot because they brought in people like Kazarni and had the Snooki wrestle at WrestleMania, and they did a lot of stupid shit.
To be fair,
the Snooki did not embarrass herself.
She did not.
I shit on the Snooki making an appearance at WrestleMania, but I always go back and watch it. I'm like, she wasn't terrible.
She was better than some of the women that were full-time on the roster back then.
She was better than when Floyd Mayweather was there, when he wrestled the Big Show, I think at WrestleMania 24.
It was 24. I mean, Snooki was not a professional wrestler or a professional athlete in any way. And like I said, she outperformed the women who were full-time on the roster. Not all of them, but some of them. Yeah.
CM Punk's not taking the WWE Championship to AEW. I'm going to tell you right now.
Andy's punking you.
I know he is. He's, and it's funny too because he doesn't understand. Like I don't think he understands. Like I'm a huge Punk mark. I love CM Punk. CM Punk was my favorite wrestler for quite a bit of time, and then he left. And I understand. Like I understand why people would make certain decisions that they do. But like you've said in the past, if you have a contract somewhere and you just get up and leave, that's not professional. That is not professionalism. You have a contract, you have to fulfill that contract. But it's kind of like that whole thing with, like, you know, if you have a job and you quit your job, you just go in your job, and it's like, you know, people are like, well, you got to give your 2-week notice. No, it's not like jobs can, like, hey, we're going to give you 2 weeks to find a new job because we're going to fire you in 2 weeks. But I understand at the end of the day there are circumstances that, you know, it's justifiable, but at the end of the day he still had a contract to fulfill.
Andy. Adam Cole, baby! Wins.
Because, I mean, honest to goodness, like if CM Punk were to come back and if CM Punk has anything left in the tank, and I do think that CM Punk can have like a few good matches left. I mean, the first person I think of, though I don't think it will happen, but crazier shit has happened. I love to see Punk and AJ Styles. And that is where I always start every single one of these things. It's like, hey, Edge is back. Who do I want to see him fight? AJ Styles. I want to see everybody fight AJ Styles because AJ Styles is the GOAT. I love to see Punk and Seth Rollins. I would love to see Punk and Edge again. I mean, they had a pretty solid rivalry when the two of them were both working in WWE. Very similar styles too, if you think about it. I mean, hell, Daniel Bryan and CM Punk was tremendous when they had their rivalry when CM Punk was WWE champion. Yeah. When that whole AJ Lee was part of the storyline where she was basically kissing everybody in the locker room, kind of like.
And eventually she kissed Daniel Bryan right before his match against Sheamus.
It's a shameful. By the way, side note, since you mentioned it, I looked up the lyrics to the Sheamus song. It's a shameful thing. Lobster Head is not the first line of that song. For 7 years, at least 7 years, if not longer, I thought that was the first line of that song. It might have been a decade that I was wrong. It's not wrong. And like the opening line doesn't even make any sense. Like the guy, I'm like, how does he sing this? I'm like, it doesn't even go with like how he sings it in the song. But the careless man who, too many limes is too many lies. I get that. But it's like, it's a shameful thing, Lobster Head. I cannot believe that wasn't the start of the song. I didn't sleep that night when I found out either. The only reason I bring that up is because WWE on Fox had tweeted out, who is your favorite wrestler right now? And I obviously had to put the Sheamus.
Right.
Fella.
Right.
But anyway, I honestly, I love to see CM Punk come back. And like you said, it's going to take the right amount of money and the right storyline to get him to come back. And right now, I don't really see any storyline that they could go with him going forward that would make any sense for him to want to come back.
Except for Triple H.
And
Chris Brown saying the fact that Punk used social media after he left to shit on WWE did him no favors and thinks that that'll be a bridge permanently burnt. Vince McMahon does not ever permanently burn any bridge unless it was the Macho Man because of what allegedly happened with Stephanie. Everybody who came against Vince McMahon has eventually been based strictly off business decisions, has been brought back. The only one I would say that has permanently burned the bridge because he will not be able to get Vince McMahon money in any way is Nails. He can't be brought back.
I know he can't, but like he's one of those like permanently like we'll never hear the name those two words put together. And to your point, if you remember correctly, after Hogan went into the WWE Hall of Fame, and Ric Flair went into the WWE Hall of Fame, and they were working for TNA, and I remember Hogan like ripping off his Hall of Fame ring and like spiking it on the ground, and it's like that's the ultimate slap in the face. And Hogan's still back with WWE. Hogan left WWE, became Hollywood Hulk Hogan, and he came back. Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, you name it. A who's of professional wrestlers come back. Never say never. I don't think that Punk has permanently burnt that bridge. He's going to have to do a lot to mend those fences.
Yeah.
To actually have a return if that was the case. So.
Andy, I think the only difference between everybody else and the Macho Man is Macho Man, I believe, was about 40 at the time, and Stephanie was about 17. So that would be probably why Vince McMahon would not be happy. That's if that alleged thing happened.
I would say Devon Dudley came out this week and said he would have loved to have dated Stephanie McMahon, so I know that he didn't fuck her.
Right.
Just because of the fact that he said he wanted to, but never did. The GOAT, Devon Dudley, baby.
Yeah.
One half of the greatest tag teams of all time.
Right.
The Dudley Boys.
Right.
But
anyway.
And on top of that, Vince did feel betrayed because of the fact that Randy Savage did leave WWE to go to WCW around the time of the Monday Night Wars. Because he felt like, he treated Randy Savage like one of his best friends or a son or anything like that. So he felt betrayed by that. And I think that with everything that went on with Stephanie too really kind of irked him as well. But like Andy said, who hasn't fucked Stephanie McMahon?
I don't know.
Testicle did.
I haven't.
I haven't either.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
that was about it.
Yeah.
So I guess apparently the reason why that the whole storyline didn't go through with why Goldberg came out and said that McIntyre, disrespected the legends is I guess they were running out of time on Raw and they were basically set at that 11 o'clock. You can't have extra time like they typically do. USA was like, no, you need to be done at 11 o'clock. So they kind of had to rush through. And McIntyre was supposed to go out there and start insulting all of the legends, which would have made no sense because he's a face. And why are you going to have a face go out there and disrespect the legends? And then Goldberg's going to be like, but so instead of like calling an audible, let's just send Goldberg out there anyway. And like I've said before, and I'll say it again, don't get me wrong, I fucking love Goldberg. Goldberg was part of the reason why I leaned more towards Nitro during the Monday Night Wars, because I love squash matches and I love the whole street gimmick. And so I always like watching Goldberg, but he doesn't need to be in title matches anymore. I'm sorry, he doesn't. He doesn't.
He should be there to make the next generation look better.
Like him fighting Riddle, yes, it would make a hell of a lot of sense. Even him fighting Orton would be better than him fighting McIntyre for the title. Because even though, like you said, Orton doesn't need that rub, who wouldn't want to see Goldberg and Orton fight? The Legend Killer versus one of the biggest legends in wrestling the last 20, 30 years.
Sure.
You know? So,
yeah.
That was my whole thing about Monday.
Vince McMahon. Yeah, if you're not making these characters do 180s in the middle of the show, it'd be easier to maintain continuity. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Yeah. Anyway, so that was Monday Night Raw. And we're going to get Drew McIntyre versus Goldberg. Hey, if we end up getting a match the quality of what Goldberg had against Brock Lesnar a couple of years ago, freaking great.
Yep.
It doesn't need to be more than like 5 minutes.
Yep.
And I want it to be better than what we got with Goldberg and Braun last year. As much as it was all right, it was more or less the same match as the McIntyre versus Lesnar match. So,
by the way, Brock Lesnar was how I remember this. I'm gonna let you all know real quick, even though I don't really have much hair. I'll be in the shower and wash my hair and my beard, and 2 minutes later, I'm like, did I wash my hair and my beard? But I do remember that Brock Lesnar was the 4th favorite to win the Royal Rumble after Daniel Bryan, Big E, and Keith Lee. I think Keith Lee was second, and then Big E was the third favorite. Then it was Brock Lesnar. Like even Ricochet was like 5,000 to 1 or some shit like that, and I'm like, damn. But it is what it is.
Well, that's about what our odds are. I mean, I did announce that I'm in the Royal Rumble last week.
Yes, this is not the first year you've announced yourself for the Royal Rumble just by announcing yourself for the Royal Rumble. And riddle me this, though, Jay. Wasn't it back in the day?
Matt Riddle?
Yes.
What?
He actually had some pretty solid odds, too. I was like, if I wanted to throw like $10 on, I'd throw down Riddle at like 1,000 to 1 or some shit like that. But
and shit.
If I remember correctly, didn't you used to have qualifying matches for the Royal Rumble? Or am I just too brainless that I remember?
No. They had qualifying matches, but then there would be some superstars that would randomly come out and say, I'm in the Royal Rumble. It's like, but what? Why do these other people have to qualify?
Yeah.
Everybody should have to qualify. You shouldn't be able to just go out there and say I'm in the Royal Rumble.
I know I've said it before on the podcast, how they should treat the Royal Rumble. It's kind of like how they treat the Masters in golf, where all former winners of the Royal Rumble should be allowed back into the Royal Rumble if they wanted to. So, like, if Ric Flair or Hulk Hogan want to get nostalgic, and obviously, like, Big John Studd couldn't do it. Who wouldn't want to see Hacksaw, Jim Duggan in the Royal Rumble, or Batista, or Sheamus should automatically, like, if Sheamus was like, hey, I'm a former Royal Rumble winner, I should be allowed in the Royal Rumble. You're absolutely right, Sheamus.
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
3-time winner. If Shawn Michaels wanted to take part in the Royal Rumble, he should be allowed in it. And I think that it should be like all the top contenders. And if any of those guys who are like former Royal Rumble winners want to get into the Royal Rumble, I think that they should be allowed to. Like Rey Mysterio should have an automatic shot in the Royal Rumble. Shinsuke Nakamura, same thing.
Not gonna
matter anymore. Sorry, but like that would make more sense than them doing something like. Kind of like how last year when it was like Goldberg had the championship and it was like, oh, the Royal Rumble winner, Drew McIntyre, is going to fight Brock Lesnar after he won the Royal Rumble. And then Roman Reigns comes out and is like, I'm next. And I'm like, oh, God, of course, because you're Roman Reigns. And, Vince McMahon petted you and fed you a bone and you went out there and you were like, I'm going to fight for the title.
Right.
But that's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
All right.
1 year, just 1 year. I want to see somebody like so far out there win the freaking Royal Rumble that people are like, holy shit, I did not see this coming.
Now, a few years ago, I think it was a few years ago when Orton won the Rumble, I was not expecting him to win.
I wasn't either.
Now, it's not that like it was out of left field, but it was like, because Orton is always, until he decides to quit, he's always going to be a contender. But
just like when him and The Fiend had their match at TLC, and people were making it seem like, oh, you know, Bray Wyatt got buried by Randy Orton. And people are coming out there and they're like, no, he didn't. Losing to Randy Orton doesn't mean you got buried.
Yeah.
You lost to one of the big, in my opinion, Randy Orton is the biggest wrestler, he's the biggest wrestler of the last 20 years, continuously.
Right. I would say John Cena is bigger, but he has not been around basically for about 2.5 years at this point.
And Randy Orton is still a GOAT. And Randy Orton is Randy Orton. You know, it's like if you're a baseball team, it's like you went out there and you lost. And it's like, but you know, you lost to the Yankees and you were expected to lose to the Yankees. So I wouldn't say that you got squashed by the Yankees, if that makes any sense.
Right.
But,
you know what? I would be all for R-Truth winning the Royal Rumble.
Oh, God, that would be the ultimate.
R-Truth. Is R-Truth your second favorite after Sheamus? Is R-Truth your second favorite after Sheamus?
Is R-Truth my second favorite wrestler after Sheamus?
Yes.
No.
Right now?
Right now? No.
Okay.
Pete Dunne.
All right.
See,
that would be a good one to
win. And Chris Brown saying Kalisto. No, Kalisto doesn't count.
I want to see Kalisto come out after he wins the Royal Rumble and cut a promo live on Raw on who he's going to face. And it's probably going to be Pablo Escobar for
the Cruiserweight title.
The Cruiserweight title. And he's going to do it on
the pre-show of WrestleMania.
He's going to main event the pre-show of WrestleMania or perhaps main event Fan Access.
No, Chris, hold on. Somebody like Kalisto winning the Royal Rumble would be like, what the fuck were they thinking? You know, because like if like years ago, like it was so predictable that who was going to win the Royal Rumble, and like you're like, oh fuck, of course they did it this way. Oh god, Roman Reigns won the Rumble, and Kalisto would be like, what the fuck were they thinking? Somebody like Matt Riddle, holy shit, I didn't see that one coming. I like it. Somebody like Pete Dunne would be an excellent pick. Oh my god, I didn't see that one coming. Somebody like that is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about
Bautista. Yeah.
But that's where I'm coming. That's where I'm coming from with when I say come out of nowhere, not somebody that's so like Kalisto winning the Royal Rumble would be like if I won the Royal Rumble.
If Ricochet won the Royal Rumble right now, that would be the most shocking thing.
Agreed.
That could happen with how many times apparently he has peed in Vince McMahon's cereal.
No. There's only one person on the roster in WWE that would be more shocking than the Ricochet. Slapjack. Slapjack would be, I'm going to even pick Slapjack to win the Raw. In fact, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say it now. If Slapjack wins the Royal Rumble, I will do the Mana Lantern live on the podcast. If Slapjack wins it. Hell, if Ricochet wins the Royal Rumble, I'll do it. There you go.
Speaking of Retribution, apparently after all the chaos that happened within our country this week, people were making memes with Retribution as part of this thing that happened at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. Apparently the members of Retribution did not think it was very funny. So, yeah.
I don't know. Did anybody really get maced?
I see what you did there.
I didn't see any T-bars either.
Yeah.
There was definitely no slapjack going around.
Yeah, Mustafa, hey, if they have a moment where like Mustafa Ali's in the ring with Retribution, similar to what Punk had with was it Straight Edge Society or New Nexus?
It was the Straight Edge Society.
During the 40-man Rumble.
Oh, the 40-man Rumble, because he's done it twice. He's done it twice where he was part of a faction and he would go out there and they would beat up everybody and he would throw whoever it was out. It happened twice. One time with the New Nexus. Oh, maybe it was just the New Nexus. I want to say he did it with the Straight Edge Society too. There's been more than one occasion where Punk had a microphone and was talking shit. I know it definitely happened.
I thought it was 2011 during the Rumble in Boston.
I could be wrong.
Where Big Daddy Cool and Booker T showed up. So
Diesel.
And he actually was Diesel.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway. So I guess we'll see where Royal Rumble goes, and we'll wonder what they're going to do at WrestleMania, because I'm guessing that, I mean, are they going to use up Goldberg's 2 matches, like Royal Rumble and WrestleMania?
It's possible.
I guess we'll see. So, but yeah, Mustafa Ali winning.
I can't wait for the Royal Rumble prediction show. You know what, Jay? We've been doing this for quite a few years now. We're in I think it's our 5th year that we're going to be celebrating our 5-year anniversary of the podcast this summer. And this will be our 5th Royal Rumble prediction show coming up. We keep things like, I try to play, conservative when it comes to all that stuff. I think I'm just going to go batshit crazy with my predictions for this year.
Great.
Like, I'm going to come up with some, like, crazy tinfoil hat theories for all the outcomes for all the matches, like even Goldberg and freaking McIntyre. And I'm going to come up with some crazy fucking shit for Royal Rumble this year. Because, I want to do something crazy, and I want something crazy to happen.
Yeah?
If I talk about chaos will happen.
Great.
So
if I talk about Punjabi prison matches, they end up happening.
Exactly. And when I talk about Nia Jax blowing out both of her ACLs, it happens. Nothing else ever happens. I don't get CM Punk back in WWE because I've only been talking about it for 4.5 years.
Only 4.5, even though he's been gone for 7.
Well, I've only been having this podcast for 4.5 years.
Right. Anyway.
So do you want to go to SmackDown, or do you want to actually go to the best wrestling night of the
You know what? Let's get all the venom out right now.
You motherfucker. It's 2 weeks in a row. You got me when I'm sipping the okay, I'm putting it. All right, let's get into the other bullshit.
SmackDown in general was fine. It was fine, but the end of the damn show is really where it took a bad turn. When you're talking about things coming out of left field, you wouldn't have predicted that in a million years yesterday. You know me. I'm very much like, hey, let's wait to see where the storyline goes. And I know part of this is showing how Roman Reigns is, the tribal chief, head of the table. Everybody's got to listen to him.
Yep.
But come on, man. We could do better than that shit. We could do better than that.
Nakamura should have won the match last night.
And that's another thing that happened last night. Apparently, Shinsuke Nakamura is now a face. And apparently now Cesaro does not have a partner, which means both of them are singles. And maybe for once, you know what? I would love if Cesaro won the Rumble.
The only thing that would be better than Cesaro winning the Royal Rumble this year is if they moved him to Raw and had him team up with Sheamus, and we get the Bar back, the greatest tag team of all time. Because they didn't just set the bar; they are the Bar. And I said the Dudleys were one of. I thought
you said the greatest tag team of all time.
One of the greatest tag teams of all. The greatest rock and roll band of all time. I gotta see if Gary Michael Capetta has a cameo, so I could just drop paychecks on just listening to. Because if there's anybody in the wrestling industry that I can listen, talk, introduce people to, it's Gary Michael Capetta, and nothing against the Fink. It's just something about when Gary Michael Capetta did it. It was just legendary.
This is brainless. Yeah.
The one behind the one and brainless one.
The one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
The worst.
Yeah.
That's another one I want to see if he's on cameo.
You should get Jean Ralphio. If you got Jean Ralphio to...
I would love to have Jean Ralphio on the podcast. Let's be serious for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
That's the best soundbite now on the podcast. Hashtag it's not even close.
Right.
But yeah. Anyway,
So going back into SmackDown,
oh, I'm sorry.
you know, they've gone back into gauntlet mode, possibly.
Is that why I saw both Seth Rollins and Kofi Kingston wrestling in the gauntlet match last night? As Sami Zayn was making his way to Rey Mysterio, just so that Fidel Castro could get pinned in 12 seconds?
I know you appreciated that. A squash match to start a gauntlet match.
My God, him with the camera crew. I'm so fully vested in this now.
I can't wait to see the footage they come up with.
Oh, yeah.
And all the... See, this is what I've been telling you about.
My favorite part about Sami Zayn getting his own camera crew is that Sami Zayn has full control over his own character. Which is why when I saw the list of, like, there's a bunch of wrestlers who their contracts are up this year, and I saw Sami Zayn's name was on that list, I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, it was basically all these wrestlers are free agents, and they said none of them are going to re-sign with WWE. I'm like, there's no way. Sami Zayn's re-signing with WWE because there's nowhere else he's going to go that he's going to have this kind of creative control over himself.
He looks like he's having a blast doing this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm having a blast watching him.
Yeah. So.
I love Sami Zayn.
Right. So. Yeah, Zayn really is doing the best work of his career at this point as far as on the microphone and character stuff. You know, they haven't had him doing as much as, like, we all know he could go in the wrestling ring. We know that, and his matches have not been on par of, like, some of the stuff we saw in NXT with him,
Right.
but we know that that's still within him. So
the underdog from the underground, Sami Zayn, who's now like the GOAT. I love Sami Zayn. You know, obviously he went over and he lost to Rey Mysterio rather quickly, and then we got, I want to say Baron Corbin came out second.
No, we got Rey Mysterio versus Shinsuke Nakamura, and they had a hell of a match, and
that's who
Mysterio tapped out.
Yep, he did. To Shinsuke Nakamura, put him in an arm bar, and then Baron Corbin came out, attacked Rey Mysterio and Shinsuke Nakamura and Dominic Mysterio. Wait.
Which one of the arm bars from Chris Jericho's list do you think was used here?
34.
34? Okay.
That was even an arm bar on 34. I need to see the whole list of 1,004 holes.
He made it.
I know. That's why I need to see it. Let's see if I can find it real quick.
So we did have Nakamura going over on Mysterio. Like, I was honestly pretty shocked by two things: Nakamura winning and Rey Mysterio tapping out. You know, usually you don't see a guy like Mysterio tapping out ever. So, but after this, Baron Corbin comes out and beats the hell out of the Mysterio family. Honestly, I think it's setting up for, I think the WrestleMania feud this year for Baron Corbin is him against Rey Mysterio. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. But who knows? They could be continue with Seth Rollins versus Rey Mysterio for the next 2 years. Who knows?
I just wanted to take this time and apologize to every single one of you out there. I apologize because I was wrong. The arm bar was not move number 34. It was move 134 was the arm bar. I want to know how many. One of these days I'm gonna actually count how many times arm bar is on there. If anything, he should have won with move number 3, the moss-covered, 3-handled family redundant.
I love that move.
As well as the Saskatchewan spinning nerve ball. The shooting star Staples super press.
Yeah,
I'm going to dedicate an episode of the podcast to the list of 1,004 moves for Chris Jericho, because
Well, I mean, we could just list them all off. That's the whole episode.
Yes, I mean it would take the whole episode.
So, right. So, Baron Corbin comes and beats the holy hell out of Mysterio, and again, that'll probably happen at Royal Rumble, that match. But I'm wondering if this is going to end up being the WrestleMania feud too.
It wouldn't surprise me.
It
wouldn't surprise me either if the feud going forward was Mysterio going after Corbin, which leads to Corbin and his court teaming up to go up against Mysterio, Dominic, and Murphy.
It could be.
That's something that you have to at least consider at this point.
And if they do that, they have to bring Teddy Long back for a night.
Only if somebody goes one-on-one with The Undertaker.
So, then we had Nakamura versus Corbin. Nakamura goes over in this match as well, setting up Nakamura versus the GOAT, Daniel Bryan.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, man, sign me up for Nakamura versus Daniel Bryan. And
I would love to see those two wrestle at WrestleMania this year. I mean, I'm just putting it out there. As a wrestling purist, that's the match I would love to see at WrestleMania this year.
All right. Well, we end up having a match, and Nakamura, in my view, shockingly wins. And he and Bryan shake hands, like, show respect, show sportsmanship, and it's like, oh no, I guess Nakamura's a face again. And then out comes the tribal chief.
Wait. Durner. No, I was very disappointed too. His hair wasn't wet. How do you win an award 5 years in a row and not have wet hair coming out to the show on Friday?
Well, I'm just wondering if after 5 years he decided that he's retiring himself from this category.
No, he's not. No, he's going to win that category. As long as this podcast is going, he's winning the wettest hair award for the Marquee Awards every single year. I don't even care if he wins it 309 times, even though I know I won't live to be 309. But
right,
I could preemptively give him awards from years prior, but never mind. He's going to win that award every year.
All right. What's up, Monsef? Thanks for tuning in.
What's up, Monsef?
So after this, basically they beat the holy hell out of Nakamura, Jey Uso, and Roman Reigns, only to have Adam Pearce be the last person as part of the gauntlet match.
You got to say it right. 2018 World Series MVP Adam Pearce.
P.S. I'm sorry, you have to say it. For me, I always have to say it with the Boston accent. P.S.
He's
Paul P.S.
Paul P.S.
Adam P.S.
Wicked Pissa.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was actually Steve Pierce, but I'm an ass. I'm brainless.
Sure.
I'm a brainless ass.
So after they beat the holy hell out of Nakamura, they put Adam Pearce on top of Nakamura, and our number one contender for the Universal title is Adam Pearce, and he will be facing the Tribal Chief at the Royal Rumble. Now, as far as storyline goes and character goes, I kind of get it for Roman Reigns. I kind of get this. But
thanks for tuning in, Andy. Sorry.
I kind of get this. No.
Stupid.
I already know what the match is going to be. Roman's going to beat the hell out of him. Probably very similar to what happened with the first Jey Uso match.
Yeah.
Just beat the hell out of him, except for instead of having like a comeback and almost winning, he's just going to get absolutely mutilated.
No, don't get it twisted either. It's not like Adam Pearce is just some Joe Schmo that's been working backstage as an agent and all this stuff for WWE. Adam Pearce is a former professional wrestler. I want to say he worked for NWA or Ring of Honor. I know he worked at Ring of Honor. I'm almost positive that he worked at Ring of Honor. I want to say he was NWA World Heavyweight Champion at one point. I could be wrong on that too. But Adam Pearce looks like a guy who could still go.
Sure.
God only knows when the last time he actually wrestled an actual match, but it might not be. I think he'll be able to handle his own. It's not like watching Vince McMahon wrestle a wrestling match,
right?
Or when it was the stooges of Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe, where we had, like, even back then, 70-year-old Pat Patterson getting in the ring with his first Intercontinental Champion T-shirt that he wore.
Right.
Monsef, we were talking about Legends Night on Monday this past week, and how Goldberg is going to be fighting for a title match, and when he was saying McIntyre was disrespecting the Legends on Monday, even though it was Randy Orton that was going backstage and disrespecting all the Legends, even though all the Legends were guys that Randy Orton wrestled against not too long ago, especially the Big Show, who last time wrestled within the last year was against Randy Orton.
Right.
But it's going to be, and I'll tell you right now, Jay, it's going to be weird seeing guys like the Big Show and Mark Henry being treated as legends. It's going to be weird when we see like John Cena, the Legends Night with John Cena, the Legends Night with Roman Reigns.
Legends Night with Mickie James is like, or when Alicia Fox.
She's not a legend.
I know.
That's different. She's not even a legend. And the fact that they've been using her on 2 Legends Nights, I'm like, bro, maybe that was part of the reason that, you know, when they got rid of her, like, all right, we'll keep putting you out there for Legends Night, but you can't be a full-time employee anymore because you're an alcoholic or whatever the hell.
Right. So Adam Pearce, it looks like his last match on the independent scene was 2014. He is 42 years of age. So
is AJ Styles. MVP's 50.
Well, the difference is if you've not been wrestling in the ring for a while, like he's been a trainer at NXT for the last 5 years.
That's different.
So he's still working out, still training in the ring, so he could still do the moves. But as far as like being able to keep up, you know, you have to have timing and you have to go at full speed, and you can't do that unless you're actually, you know, wrestling in front of a crowd.
I don't think Vince McMahon is going to put him out there if he can't at least be somewhat serviceable, I guess.
My only rebuttal to that would be Goldberg Undertaker.
Oh, God, please.
Undertaker WrestleMania 33 against Roman Reigns, or was that 34? Whichever one. I think that was 33. Okay, 32. Yeah.
Because 33 was when he fought Shane McMahon.
Right. That was.
No, I'm sorry. 33 was not when he fought Shane McMahon.
No,
33 was when Roman Reigns fought.
32 was Shane versus Undertaker, because that was at Houston or at Dallas.
That was 2 years. 32 was 2 years after Undertaker lost to Brock. So he fought Shane McMahon the year after he fought Bray Wyatt. Okay, you're right. That was when Roman Reigns lost to Brock Lesnar, if I'm not mistaken, at WrestleMania.
He lost to Brock at WrestleMania. Well, technically speaking, he lost to...
No, that was Triple H.
Triple H.
He beat Triple H at 32. Okay.
In the main event. Even though the main event... Triple H doing his main event best of being the last match. But that match was good between he and Roman Reigns. But after the Shane McMahon Undertaker match, it just was not going to.
And 34 was when Roman Reigns lost to Brock Lesnar. 31 was when Seth Rollins had to cash in for the Money in the Bank.
Yes.
And won the title.
Yeah.
Which is still one of my favorite moments in WrestleMania history. It's not better than Sheamus beating Daniel Bryan, or King Kong Bundy beating Special Delivery Jones, or Bobby Heenan having the most iconic line in the history of wrestling when he said the Iron Sheik was going to finally get to the ring at WrestleMania 38.
Right.
Speaking of which, and this is pretty breaking news this week. So of course there's been some stuff in this country that's been going on. But one person in particular really stood out for me, the Iron Sheik. And the Iron Sheik came out there this week on Twitter and said, if this country can solve all their issues and get, and make things better, he said he would go out and reach out to Hulk Hogan to actually rebuild that relationship with Hulk Hogan and saying, instead of like saying, fuck Happy New Year to everybody but Hulk Hogan. And he said he was going, And he's been trying to reach out to Hulk Hogan to make amends for what happened back in the 1980s when Hulk Hogan beat the Iron Sheik for the WWF Championship at Madison Square Garden, instantly catapulting and leading to the Hulkamania craze, which has been running wild on you.
I want to say it was sometime in mid to late January when that happened. So we're coming up on the anniversary, brother, of Hulkamania being born.
Thank you to the Iron Sheik for that.
Yeah.
Which is why he's in the Hall of Fame. He's a former tag team champion, world heavyweight champion, main event at Madison Square Garden. And most importantly, cannot stress this enough, winning the gimmick battle royal at WrestleMania 17.
Right. Right.
I would love to see Hulk Hogan and Iron Sheik at WrestleMania 38. That'd be great.
Yeah. The match from the old folks' home.
Right.
January 23rd, 1984. That's what I thought it was.
Oh, shit. That's 2 weeks from today. Which means we could celebrate it. We could celebrate it on the podcast. You know what? This is what we'll do. I'll dye my hair white. I'll get rid of this part right here. I'll just get the handlebar going. I was going to say something, but I'll be nice. I'll shave this part of my head right here, and I'll dye this all white. I'll find some yellow and red, and I'll dress up like Hulk Hogan. And let me tell you something, brother. And I'll tell everybody to take their vitamins and say their prayers. Or unless you want to dress up like Hulk Hogan, I'll do the Iron Sheik mustache, and I'll talk like the Iron Sheik the entire time.
I mean, you can. I know somebody who would love to. If we got Sean O on the show and
I would love to get Sean O on the show. The man who has disappeared for the last 200 episodes of the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Fucking the Hulk Hogan. I will put you in camel clutch. I'll break your back. And I'll make you humble. Iron Sheik.
The GOAT.
I'm sorry. F.B. Mark's Hall of Famer.
The Iron Sheik.
See? Even the Iron Sheik got in before Hulk Hogan got into our podcast Hall of Fame. Yeah?
Stand by. Yeah.
Are you trying to find the greatest line that Brock Lesnar's ever said?
I am trying to find that.
You're gonna do, officer. Party's over, Grandpa.
Your favorite part, I think, is
Right there it is. Where
Mr. Wonderful
laughed his ass off because Hulk Hogan knew he couldn't beat up.
There was nothing he could do, brother.
I don't give a shit about your kid. Brock Lesnar, for what Brock Lesnar is an attraction. I fucking love Brock Lesnar. Any Brock Lesnar is better than no Brock Lesnar. And the man has delivered so many great moments. I still remember when he came out there, before the whole I don't give a shit about your kids to Heath Slater, was back when they were still part of 3MB, and Brock Lesnar came out and absolutely shit all over 3MB, and he took Heath Slater and he F5'd him, and Heath Slater hit the barricade outside and bounced off, and everybody's like, one more time. I'm like, oh no. And he did. He picked him up and he hit him with another F5 off the barricade, and I'm like, you're not telling Brock Lesnar what he can and can't do. There's only one person that's going to stop Brock Lesnar from doing anything, and that's Brock Lesnar.
Right.
I love Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
Surefire, no question in my mind, first ballot Hall of Famer Brock Lesnar.
Right. So I didn't hear a lot of venom for you about Adam Pearce.
Nakamura should have won that match. At the end of the day, Nakamura should have won that match because it would have been a fresh rivalry, because everybody was getting kind of tired of the whole Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns thing, which I also thought was very interesting. That Kevin Owens wasn't even in the gauntlet match. Because typically they do stupid shit like that, where a guy, even though he might have lost 7 consecutive title matches to the World Heavyweight Champion, hey, we're going to put him in the gauntlet match and he could potentially win a shot at the title. And I love the fact that they did Mysterio. I love the fact that they did Daniel Bryan.
See,
Nakamura, Zayn, all those guys.
So with Zayn, what happened with Zayn recently?
He just lost the Intercontinental title.
Why was Big E not in this then?
Because Big E was defending his Intercontinental Championship against
But
the Dave Winfield
logic-
of professional wrestling.
Logic tells you the man who won, who has a title, should have an opportunity to step up the ladder, right?
And Jay, how many times over the years, even before we did this podcast, where we were like, that doesn't
I
make
am
any
not
sense.
trying. I'm trying. I know I'm trying to inject logic into WWE, and that is just a bad idea.
And I think that
It's a bad idea.
no,
But I'm sorry, I'm not accepting them like being stupid.
for the first time since we started doing the Good, Bad, and Brainless, you are making a running shot at my Brainless this week for trying to pitch logic to WWE logic. There is no such thing as pitching logic to WWE logic because there is no logic behind what they do. There is none whatsoever.
There is. The logic is always,
Yeah, I know.
and the story doesn't need to make sense, but the money needs to make sense. So, yeah.
I just want to know because like at first they were trying to tell us there was no authority figures, and now there's this Adam Pearce guy who works both Raw and SmackDown, and is just like announcing all these things. It's not like he's a general manager. It's not like he's the commissioner. He's just Adam Pearce, who is an authority figure, and it's like, why is he doing this? He's working on both shows. You're not supposed to be telling people to take somebody else's spot in the Royal Rumble. You're supposed to be fighting Regal in the parking lot and and breaking cars.
Which is now the second best parking lot brawl.
Yes, I agree with that. It should have been Nakamura. I'm not completely upset about Pierce win match. I didn't like the way
I know
they handled it.
character-wise, again, this makes sense for Roman, but no, don't put Adam Pearce in this match.
No, because he hasn't had any issues with Adam Pearce at all. During all, Adam Pearce is just a guy that's going to put these matches together. And then all of a sudden, like Roman Reigns is like, "Oh, I got a problem with you."
Yeah.
Roman, if anything, I would have a problem with the dentist that put those new teeth in your mouth because it just doesn't look real. You look like you're wearing fake teeth. I'm sorry, I have to say it.
Right.
Your teeth being the same teeth as before is about as believable as Charlotte's boobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we did the deal with Vince about Smackdown assistant. I know I think it's all that fucking matters. That's good, man. That and money. That's great, kids. I'll give him that.
Anyway.
But speaking of Big E, he did defend the Intercontinental title last night against Apollo Crews. Kind of set up from last week when Big E got beat up in a 2-on-1 situation, and Apollo Crews came to the aid, which led to them being in a tag team match.
Playa.
And for him helping out Big E, Apollo Crews was granted the title shot from the Intercontinental Champion, which I have no problem when the champion issues challenges to people like that.
Right. They had an entertaining match, but they had a spot in the middle where they ended up having to go like to the replay because there was like a superplex and basically both men's shoulders were down. But instead of that being the end of the match and it being a no contest, they restarted the match.
Yes.
I'm fine with them doing that, restarting the match, because it seemed, at least at the end, like character-wise, with Apollo Crews, he was not Dave Winfield.
Right.
It seemed like he was kind of pissed off about all that had kind of gone on. And, no, I won the match. No, I won the match, saying that the replay was all, the call on the replay was wrong.
Right.
Wrong.
Which is funny, too, because like when he was on Raw, and he was feuding with Angel Garza when Angel Garza was the United States champion, he did the same thing where he slapped the shit out of Angel Garza, which he did the same thing with Big E last night. And a lot of people are like, well, what does this mean for Apollo Crews going? It means nothing.
Well, hopefully it means a direction, but I mean, Apollo Crews can go in the ring with anybody, but, you know, it goes back to when he first came up to the main roster, you know, several years ago. I harped on it then. I'm like, going, he's not ready character-wise. He was ready in the ring, but it's like, why did you bring him up? I mean, it was almost the exact opposite with like a dude with Elias who kind of had like a fully formed character who some people did not appreciate the Drifter when he was in NXT, but like at least he had a character that was fully formed and he could go reasonably well in the ring. And it's like, going, okay, yeah, call him up and see what happens. But like specifically here with Apollo Crews, it's like he's just wandering. He quite literally has been the Drifter.
He is
of the main roster.
Yeah,
Drifter and you know the place of lost characters.
Yeah.
So, but again, I want to see development out of Crews. I want to see good things for this dude because again, he's a heck of a wrestler.
Yeah.
But hopefully this will help chart a path for both he and Big E going forward. You know, and this was a thing that I brought up when Jey Uso was the first person mentioned to be going against Roman Reigns after he won the title.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that Big E should have been the second one in line to challenge Roman Reigns. And I think that actually was where they were heading. As far as storyline goes, but I don't think they were expecting that Jey Uso. Well, they definitely weren't expecting Jey Uso line to hit a chord with the audience.
Mm-hmm.
So they stayed with that for a few months.
Yep.
But I wouldn't mind seeing again. I mean, I talked about why wasn't Big E in the Gauntlet match? He Intercontinental Champion, and he deserved to be in the match over Sami Zayn.
Yeah. Kind of like when a few years back when Roman Reigns won the Elimination Chamber after just dropping the Intercontinental title to The Miz, and you said the same thing where The Miz should have had the spot instead of Roman Reigns.
So right here, I would love to see Big E get elevated to that next level. Maybe this year, maybe he doesn't win the Royal Rumble, but maybe he has one of those star-making appearances, whether it's similar to Kane when he eliminated, 13, and then Roman
set 14.
Roman did 14, but he doesn't need to eliminate 13 or 14, but if he eliminates like 6, 7, 8 people and looks badass doing it, freaking great.
What's up, James? Thanks for tuning in.
So yeah, again, I hope this charts a better path for both these guys.
Yeah.
But I have little hope for Apollo Crews. So
another thing that happened last night, we had the tag team championships defended as the Street Profits went up against, I don't even remember what the hell, Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode.
Or Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode.
They actually came up with a new team name. I saw. I just was brainless.
Right.
As our buddy Aaron on Twitter says, he calls them Rudolph the Red-Nosed, something like that. I think it was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Tag Team or something like that. Because they're Rude and Dolph. Get it? Rudolph the Red-Nosed Tag Team. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the surprise move, our new SmackDown Live Tag Team Champions, the team of Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
The Street Profits have had a pretty solid run as tag team champions. They were Raw Tag Team Champions back in March. When they did the draft a couple months ago, they kind of swapped the things out where they took the SmackDown titles with them to SmackDown and gave the Raw Tag Team titles to the New Day. Probably one of the better tag teams booking wise that WWE has had over the last few years. So I was a little surprised that they dropped the belts to Ziggler and Roode, but then again,
Dirty Dogs.
That's what it is. Dirty Dogs. I knew it was something funny. again, but this is just Vince McMahon and WWE not knowing how to build the tag team division anymore because Vince is fucking retarded.
Honestly, I don't think it's he doesn't know how to build the tag team division. He doesn't want to.
I think that, yeah, that's probably what it is.
The reason why New Day was pushed as well and continue to be pushed as well as they have is because they sold merchandise.
Yep.
And that's all. It's not that he wants to push tag team wrestling.
Right.
It costs him more money to keep a tag team together because he has to pay for the rooms and what have you. And yeah. So
must be a really expensive now because there's no rooms to pay for because they're not going anywhere.
Well,
anytime you want anytime you want to go and justify anything Vince McMahon does, I will squash it real quick. There's nothing you can say about Vince McMahon that I won't squash or crush or destroy or make that guy look like an asshole.
Vince McMahon wants to make money. You can't crush that. You know it's true.
Girl, you know it's true.
I knew you were going there.
Oh, I want you.
Cotton Bristol.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
You still owe me a yeah, by the way, because I've done it twice now, and I feel like it's fallen flat, and I don't appreciate it.
Yeah. Maybe you need to have more zest when you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. Much better. That one came from my soul. I felt that one kind of like it escaped from like my spleen or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
think that's pretty much like everything we need to talk about on SmackDown from last night. There's not really anything else I can think of right now.
Yeah.
So I say we move to the best night of wrestling during the week, and that would be Wednesdays.
Wednesday.
Where we have Tony Khan, and speaking of cons, the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, the biggest con artist of them all, Kenny Omega. And then we also had NXT's New Year's Evil,
which was hosted
by the GOAT, Dexter Lumis.
Dexter Lumis with his
very interesting, unique look to him.
Yeah.
I liked the show on Wednesday. Wednesday was my favorite. NXT this week was my favorite wrestling of this entire week. They had a lot of really good wrestling matches. Damian Priest and Karrion Kross beat the shit out of each other on Wednesday.
So did O'Reilly and Balor again.
Did. Oh, and by the way, Raquel Gonzalez and Rhea Ripley also beat the shit out of each other.
I know it's early in the year, and I realize you're like going, yeah, that a match of the year candidate. Raquel Gonzalez versus Rhea Ripley.
Well,
I know it's super early.
There's no
super early in the year. And what I'm going to say here is when you see an fucking awesome match, you know right away.
I love
match was.
I love the Dakota Kai angle as part of it. Where she came with the kendo stick, like she was cracking Rhea Ripley with that kendo stick, and then Rhea Ripley shoved her
into the locker.
That was fantastic. And blocked her from coming out. I was like, all right, now that's creativity. It's amazing how creative NXT can get, and yet the main roster is fucking hot garbage thrown into a fucking dumpster and set on fire and pissed on.
Right.
So,
yeah. Anyway, all right. So yeah, Dexter Lumis was the MC of this party.
Yep.
They started like the place all dark, and you see him starting to hit the buttons. I'm like, he's so creepy.
But it was good to see Karrion Kross come back. His first match since he vacated the championship from an injury that he sustained in his title match that he had.
Yeah, he had the separated shoulder.
Yeah, against I think it was Keith Lee, if I'm not mistaken. That he beat.
It was.
Damn, I'm good sometimes. He looked good, and I knew the two of them were going to beat the shit out of each other.
So a couple of things with this. There are rumors going around that Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest are going to the main roster.
Yep.
So what happened on NXT makes sense if they're about to make their debuts.
Well, I guess apparently there was discussion last week where Damian Priest was supposed to be called up to SmackDown and be inserted in the Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, Jey Uso storyline where he was going to be an ally for Kevin Owens. And they scrapped it because I guess a lot of times, or not even a lot of times, I guess almost every time when it comes to like these new people getting brought up to the main roster, there's hype behind it and discussions about it for weeks and months before they make it to the main roster. Apparently, with Damian Priest, they were talking about putting him in that storyline last Thursday, the day before. And they were like, and that's the reason why it got pushed to the side and like basically squashed last week was because of the fact that there was no build towards him going to the main roster. Sure. And a lot of people were speculating for a couple of days, like, well, who was going to be? Because it came out over the weekend, who was going to be the person that was going to be called up to be part of this storyline. And I was like, I'm curious to see who it is and all that jazz. And it was Damian Priest, and I wasn't really surprised. Just like part of that storyline wouldn't have made any sense.
Well, sometimes you have to sit there and, I guess, write in reverse if you're going to try to make it make sense. But, you know, with back in the day, I mean, I was always okay with them occasionally having, like, the surprise people show up. I mean, they did that with Retribution, but Retribution kind of did these things bit by bit as time went by. And obviously they spent a long time building this up for them to we got this great new faction. Oh, by the way, let's take it outside and take a dump on it.
Oh, man.
Let's put a slapjack on it.
It's never going to not be funny. It's never going to not be funny, Jay.
I know that.
Slapjack. 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 I am at some point this weekend. I'm going to see if Slapjack's available as a license plate here in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
I mean, if they do want to hype up Damian Priest before he shows up, and maybe they hype him up, or maybe he's in a Royal Rumble qualifying match, and
what's that?
They're going to have one. Maybe they'll have. You know what? They're going to have. Maybe they'll have like limited number of NXT participants, but they'll have the qualifying match on NXT, and maybe he wins that, and then goes to the Royal Rumble, and then they could hype him up that way, or just have him do what they do, and sometimes just have him show up and he's done this, and he's done this, and he's done this. I don't know. I love, his entrance. I think it's very cinematic. I think it'd do extremely well in front of a live crowd. But if they want the WWE Universe to get to know him a little bit beforehand, they have 3 weeks to set that up for Royal Rumble. So
I think he's going to be in the Rumble, my guess.
Sure.
Dynamite drop-in, brainless one.
Right. So Karrion Kross looked good here. Damian Priest looked good.
Scarlett Bordeaux looked really good.
Yeah. And hopefully this means that Kross should get a title shot at some point soon, because, hey, he never lost the title, and he went and beat, one of the top stars.
Agreed.
So, but we shall see. We had Grand Metalik going against Santos Escobar, and
what was a very forgettable match.
But
just like the whole 205 division.
But when it comes to things like this, it's like, all right, Lucha House Party, just keep them down in NXT. I don't see the need to see them on Raw or SmackDown. All the storylines they had with them never really went anywhere.
Right.
So then we had Zia Lee in like a squash match, and she has like this kind of
new persona about her as we found out that she was the female that was doing the whole karate thing where she was getting beat up and bloodied and doing all this stuff and again. So it was good to see that Zia Lee, because she is a great wrestler.
She is.
She needed somewhat of a character, and I think this would be a good way to put her over as a badass.
And you know, you have that person who's like this like dark entity who's like sitting on a throne up at the top of the ramp. It's like, although this always is, when I see stuff like this, I just always think of when Vince McMahon takes off the hood. It's me, Austin.
I'm the higher power.
So, who knows who the higher power is? But again, I look forward to seeing where this goes, because Zia Lee, I think, again, could go in the ring, but needs a character to kind of ground her and get people invested in her character.
I agree.
So then we had, again, what I consider like a match of the year candidate, Raquel Gonzalez versus Rhea Ripley. They beat the holy heck out of each other. There was this one bump where Rhea Ripley got power bombed. I think it was power bombed through the announce table.
Where she hit the edge of the table.
Edge of the table with her back.
Yeah,
and it's like, ooh. But you know what? They continued on with the match. And sometimes with these last man or last woman standing matches, you know, you have them beat the crap out of somebody and then like, whoa.
Yeah.
And it'll take away some of the steam from the match. But without having the crowd there, they do a little bit less of selling things like that. So I think they did this beautifully.
And I'll tell you, the ending where Raquel Gonzalez picked up Rhea Ripley and put her through the stage, and basically Raquel Gonzalez had to dig herself out at about the 8 count and still on the ground, and that's how she ended up winning, was because she had to almost take herself out to take out Rhea Ripley. I like that aspect. I love the way it ended. I love the fact that Dakota Kai got involved in that. I love the fact that Rhea Ripley shoved her in there like a duffel bag at the gymnasium. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. I think they told a great story, and
this has been a continuing story. They've been going at each other on and off for like over a half year, I'd say.
A little bit more, maybe even closer to a year.
So
they a great match nonetheless. I enjoyed it. The two women should be very proud of the way that they performed on Wednesday. Because like you said, I agree with you. I think that deserve at least some recognition as a early front runner for match of the year.
We have
11 and a half more months to go.
But like,
where Kenny Omega could have another 5-star match, according to Meltzer.
But again, when you see a match of this quality, you know immediately, like, shit, man, yeah, it's going to be tough to top something like this. Freaking loved everything about this match. So,
agreed. Me too. Then
Johnny Gargano comes out.
We made up their minds, and they started packing. Left before the sun came up that day.
Yeah, you should stop singing.
Was I singing that bad?
Yeah.
You guys told me I was good on New Year's Eve when I was doing the karaoke. You all were.
You were much better rapping.
Thank you. I take pride in my rapping.
Oh, you do. We Didn't Start the Mania is one of the greatest things to ever happen on this show. It might even be the second. Greatest thing.
Dixie still owns the greatest moment in podcast history.
Yes, I don't know if that will ever be topped.
You hear that? Hey, did you hear that? Huh?
Let him sleep. He's going to tiss him.
No, he's fine. He's like, fuck you, stop bothering.
Well,
that's why she was an immediate Hall of Fame inductee.
Right.
Shit. But hey, you guys said I did good on New Year's Eve, even if the blood was pouring from all your ears.
Right.
I know I can't say. I have one of the worst voices ever.
The worst!
Yes, they're called The Way. That's the reason why I was singing The Way by Fastball.
Okay.
And I, poor Austin Theory. So basically, they come out there and they're cutting this promo and they're doing this thing where they have like the pictures and the awards and all that stuff. And they were congratulating Johnny Gargano for actually retaining a championship in a title match. And then Shotzi Blackheart came out and
with a freaking tank.
Tank like she's notorious for. And Austin Theory goes up there and was trying to squash it, and she shot him right in the nuts. And I was like, well, that's one way to get punished for what you did. And then later on in the match, and it was
an impromptu match with
an impromptu match because Dexter Lumis rang a bell, and even though Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae were in street clothes, they still wrestled in a mixed tag team match against Shotzi Blackheart and
Kushida.
Pretty solid match for what it was, considering it was not expected or anything like that. And I think it was kind of put in there because they wanted to take the Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher match
Because Thatcher
has an injury. I'm thinking it's kayfabe just to get it off the show. I think they did too much. They had a pretty decent match considering, and the fact that Austin Theory was sitting in the corner and Gargano got launched into his nuts. I'm like, okay, they really are taking out their frustrations. I mean, it was kind of ballsy that they were doing with it.
I see what you did there.
And
it was.
Oh man, it was a sore subject for Austin Theory afterwards too.
Yeah.
But anyway, Kushida and Shotzi Blackheart go over now because of the fact that it was impromptu. Them not wearing wrestling gear and they were in street clothes and all that stuff. You don't have a problem with Gargano eating that pinfall on Wednesday, right?
I have no problem with him eating a pinfall in a tag team match.
Okay.
If he was in a one-on-one match, I'd have a problem with it.
Even if he was dressed like I am right now.
Yeah.
So you're saying if you're champion, you should still be able to wrestle. Is it because of the fact? Is it because that you're a champion, so it has to happen, or is it because of the fact that our boy Scorpio Sky wrestled a match with missing a shoe?
He was missing a shoe and in street clothes.
So Scorpio Sky,
he's a goat. Yeah, he should be higher up. I can't wait until they finally do push him. But
yeah.
So
anyway, still good shit.
And the main event for NXT was a rematch. Kyle O'Reilly going against Finn Balor. The last time these two dudes fought, both of them were much worse the wear after it. Finn Balor legit broke his jaw, I believe, in 2 places. So,
and Kyle O'Reilly, I forgot what happened to him, but he also suffered an injury in the first match. And this time it was Kyle O'Reilly who now has the fractured jaw, and Finn Balor's arm was kind of busted up, and so was his head. So they both actually got rushed to the hospital not too long after the match was over.
It was like Rocky versus Apollo Creed in Rocky 2.
Yes.
I'm sorry, that too old of a reference.
No. Any self-respecting male has seen all of those movies.
If you didn't see 5, that's okay.
Yeah, you don't need to see Rocky 5. It never really happened anyway.
Even though I enjoyed the fighting scenes in Rocky 5.
Just like Tim Brown in Tampa Bay, it never happened.
Right. All right, Chris Brown saying, I just read something interesting. There's talk MLW might try to resurrect Lucha Underground using a storyline of theirs.
I know that there's been a lot of, because I follow Selena De La Renta on a lot of areas of social media, and I know that her and Conan have had their issues in the past, and she is the son of La Parca's son, actually, is one of her proteges. She also worked with both Ray Phoenix and Pentagon Jr. when they were in MLW before they made the jump to to AEW. It would be interesting to see what they do with that. And I know that she's probably going to be at the forefront of what happens with that.
Sure.
So, as well as 900-year-old Conan.
You know me, I'm always game for more places for professional wrestlers to work where they don't feel like they have to be an indentured servant to Vince McMahon and his independent contractors.
Right.
At least with the other wrestling organization, they are true independent contractors. So, yeah. But getting back to this match, again, they beat the holy hell out of each other, O'Reilly and Balor, and it's tough to live up to what they did in that first match, but they were pretty damn close. This was a great match.
I'm not surprised that it was delivered in a way by both Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly, two of the better in-ring performers in the industry. So I was very happy to see them have a match that they had on Wednesday. And as a wrestling fan, I was satisfied.
Well, and you know me, I always talk about how I prefer like the strong style where it looks like they're beating the hell out of each other.
Yeah.
And that visual of Balor with the bloodied up face, where, I mean, obviously he was busted open the hard way. Like, these guys were stiffing each other, and I enjoy seeing matches like that. So, you know, three really good to great matches on NXT this week. I love it. It's just sad that it's not as broadly consumed as Raw and SmackDown, but kudos for the people at NXT and what they were able to pull off. But so this is just me throwing this out there, and Randy Orton has kind of talked about this. I think if you wanted to take the NXT brand to the next level, I think putting somebody like Randy Orton down there, not on a permanent basis, but for a long-term thing, would help elevate the entire brand. I know they did Charlotte there for, some months last year, but Randy Orton is more established than Charlotte is, bigger star than Charlotte is. Like, I think if they put somebody like him down there, put him against Finn Balor, you put him against
Tommaso Ciampa. Who wouldn't want to see Ciampa and Randy Orton go at it?
And they were in the ring at the Survivor Series 15 months ago. But the thing, like, I think Orton is a bigger star than AJ Styles.
Yeah.
So I think getting somebody like Orton down there would be a good thing. Again, that's if they want to build up that brand. Now, Vince McMahon is still keen on kind of referring to it now as a lesser thing, then that won't happen. But, if he wants to build it up, that would be, in my view, the best way to do it.
If he wants to continue to compete against AEW every Wednesday night and try to beat them in the ratings.
If he wants to beat them.
He's going to have to do something. Whether it's Randy Orton or even somebody like Daniel Bryan, who I think is just as big of a star as Randy Orton. And you can put Daniel Bryan down there. And could you imagine Johnny Gargano and Daniel Bryan? Daniel Bryan and Finn Balor. Daniel Bryan and Kushida. Are you kidding me? There's a lot of great matches that you can have down there just by bringing somebody like Daniel Bryan down there, especially since Daniel Bryan wants to do more of a part-time deal with his next contract if he resigns with WWE. So,
yeah. Well, and one thing I would say on top of that is if they did something like that, I think they should bring one top-line face and one top-line heel to make that happen. So that's just my 2 cents on that. And that way you could have Randy Orton versus Finn Balor, but it's on NXT TV. And people, I think, would be all in on that. Pardon the pun. All in?
I see what you did there.
Let's see.
So before we get into AEW, this is how my brain works sometimes. I just remembered something that I wanted to bring up really quickly.
Wait. You're saying you have a brain?
So, yes.
Even after all these episodes of being the brainless one.
So, apparently, there's two huge free agents that have hit the area of professional wrestling this past week. One of them was Marty Scurll, whose contract with Ring of Honor has expired. And I know that Vince McMahon has some interest in Marty Scurll. I know that AEW has some interest in Marty Scurll because Marty has connections with the Elite, being part of the Bullet Club when he was in New Japan. And obviously, Vince McMahon has wanted to sign
any big star.
Yeah, basically anybody with a
that's
pulse.
A free agent.
Russell, yeah. But also a very intriguing name who has been connected to WWE because Triple H wants to bring him in is Jay White, who appeared at this week's Wrestle Kingdom, and in a losing manner. And they're saying there's a lot of comparisons that when he cut that promo was a lot of comparisons to him being Ric Flair in that promo that he cut after the show ended this week. A lot of people are thinking that it might be just like a kayfabe thing that he's a free agent, and other people are thinking that it's actually a legitimate thing.
Sure.
I could see WWE going in there and getting Jay White. If they had to get one or the other, I would think they're going to go Jay White and Marty Scurll ends up in AEW. And if they were to do something like that with Jay White, I'd like to see him go to NXT UK and work with freaking Walter and all those guys.
Based off of how AEW ended, I think Marty Scurll going to AEW would be a better idea. Based off how they ended the show.
Yeah, I agree. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Cody going forward, too. But so let's get into AEW. Yay. So we had an 8-man tag match that started off the show. The Young Bucks teamed up with SCU.
Yep.
Go up against the team of Angelico and Jack Evans, which a lot of people know them as a tag team. For me, it sounds like a drink I've ordered at the bar on Friday nights. Angelico and Jack Evans.
Right.
And they teamed up with a team for
the Hybrid 2.
The Hybrid 2, which was my first experience with Hybrid 2.
I'm sorry you didn't get a chance to see that terrible rap.
Oh, you kidding me?
It was the worst segment.
I love. But you know me, I love stupid shit, and that's exactly what it was. Either way, tremendous match to start the show.
It was.
And a lot of times, like when you have like these multi-people tag matches, they could be clunky. There's going to be a lot of people who got overlooked and everything like that. No, this was crisp. This was a very good wrestling match. I love watching Chris Daniels work because I know I've said it about Jericho and MVP and all these guys. If I could do anything half as good at the age of 50 as
137 years old
as Chris Daniels is a wrestler, I think I'm going to be in pretty solid shape. I don't think I'm going to be able to do the podcast that good when I'm 50 that Chris Daniels does as a wrestler in the ring.
Yeah.
And Frankie Kazarian, it was kind of weird seeing him grow his hair out again. But those two dudes, for their age, can definitely still go. Obviously, you know what you're going to get in a wrestling match with the Young Bucks in it. But, I mean, even the two teams that they went up against, you know, had a solid performance. Yeah, I mean,
held their own.
It was a really good wrestling match for an 8-man tag match.
Yep.
So that's the best way I can put it.
Yeah, it was a good, solid way to start the show, and part of this fed into a storyline where SCU, the next time that they lose, they're going to break up as a team, but they're going to be going against the Young Bucks for the tag team titles.
No, it will not be the last time we say the Young Bucks from this past Wednesday's show on this show.
Yeah.
After
this, we had Jon Moxley come out and cut a promo and kind of talking about how, hey, yeah, when you get knocked down, you don't just stay down. I get up and I'm gonna keep fighting. So I don't know if this means he's going to. Again, based off how they ended the show, I think we're gonna once again see. We'll see Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley again.
at some point, yes.
But you know, this was kind of like the restart or recharge of that feud.
Yes.
So good promo and led to some fireworks at the end of the show.
Yes. It did.
Yeah.
Then we got ourselves a match between Jake Hager and Wardlow. And I think the biggest surprise that I took from this was I didn't know Wardlow was from Cleveland.
When?
The fact that Jeff hasn't, reminded us on a constant basis that Wardlow is from Cleveland because he always talks about everything Cleveland.
Right.
He cares more about Cleveland than Chip Kelly cared about Oregon.
Right.
Where he was signing everybody who played in Oregon or lived in Oregon or, drove through Oregon or can point Oregon out on a map or spell Oregon.
The opposite of Randy Edsel.
Yes.
So Wardlow went over in this match, but the way that they were selling this story was like, all right, the two monsters of the inner circle.
Yeah.
Families have fights, and sometimes you need to, beat each other up to settle things. But Hager didn't look too happy after he took the L here.
Yeah.
So what this is leading to, in my view, is Hager making his exit and becoming a singles competitor in I know when he signed with AEW, he said that, they saw him as a star and they wanted to treat him as one. And not that he's gotten completely lost in the shuffle in the inner circle, but it's hard to be a star when you have 5 other people around you and it's built around Chris Jericho. And right now it's built around Chris Jericho and MJF.
The goat of goats, who have goated more than goats have ever goated in the history of goatdom, Chris Jericho.
Right.
And the future goat, MJF.
Right.
And the guy who will never be the GOAT, Sammy Guevara.
The GOAT at botches.
I will say this: Wardlow definitely impressed me in his performance on Wednesday. I haven't seen a lot of Wardlow since he joined AEW, so it was kind of a nice treat, especially going up against somebody of the same size and stature.
Sure.
And like Jim Ross has said on more than one occasion in his entire wrestling career, it was a good old-fashioned slobber knocker between the two of them. Yeah, I love the fact that they beat the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
So it served a purpose, and it was a lot more entertaining than I thought it was going to be.
Speaking of entertaining, we had Private Party with Snoop Dogg. And they came out and they said, like, oh, yeah, we're going to be making some gin and juice. And then Snoop Dogg shows up. I'm like, hey.
Rolling down the street, smoking endo, sipping on gin and juice, laid back. On my mind, on my money, and my money
Running
on my mind.
Yeah. See, you're much better at the rapping thing. So
that's because I missed my calling.
But one of the things that happened in here is where basically Matt Hardy is almost like acting like he's going to be their manager now. And he said, yeah, I'm just going to take 30% from you, but I'm going to allow you guys to be on Twitch and Cameo and all that stuff. I'm not, heartless or anything. So it was a fun little jab that he had at Vince McMahon. I enjoyed it.
I think Petey did too.
Yeah.
Come here, Bubs.
So anyway,
come here.
Moving on from that, we had Team Taz come out and some issues between Brian Cage and Darby Allin here.
As they get ready for their TNT Championship match next week. Brian Cage, who is 272 pounds, and Darby Allin, I've taken shits bigger than Darby Allin.
Yeah, Taz making fun of like Darby Allin, saying like 90 pounds of him is just his gear that he's wearing. He's got metal on his jacket, and he's got a skateboard, and yeah. And then at the end of all this, the lights all go out.
Because it looked like they were all going to start attacking him, Ricky Starks and Hobbs and Brian Cage. And then, like you said, the lights came out and the snow started falling. And out comes Sting. And I'll tell you right now, Tony Schiavone's been doing this for a long time and has worked with Sting for a very long time. That was one of the worst Tony Schiavone calls of Sting.
The worst. Well, like, when it happened before, it was like on a fun trip down nostalgia, and now it seems like it's a caricature of what he used to do.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, man, come on, you're better than this, Schiavone.
Yeah.
Speaking of Schiavone, he actually got a little more in depth about his negotiations with WWE. More or less, WWE was the ones who called him in 2019. And he basically gave WWE a number of how much money he wanted to make, knowing that it was a very
substantial.
Yeah, and that they probably would not want to do it. But he's like, all right, well, but in the end, he talked to Tony Khan. Tony Khan more or less said, all right, this is what we're going to offer you. Schiavone's wife said, to AEW, I'll divorce you if you go to WWE. But the funny thing is Bruce Pritchard told Schiavone, we're going to contact you right after SummerSlam, and we'll figure something out, because they wanted to kind of button up exactly what he was going to do. So they contacted him the day after SummerSlam and said, yeah, Tony, thank you so much for your interest, but we've got nothing for you. And then Schiavone's like, you called me. You called me. So why do you call him and say, oh, we've got nothing for you? It's like, obviously, they were just trying to keep him away from AEW.
Yes.
But just hearing a little bit more of that story, it's like,
Yeah.
so. All right, so, Darby Allin, Brian Cage next week. Then we had Cody Rhodes going against Matt Sydal.
Also formerly known as Evan Bourne.
Right. They had a fun match. Matt Sydal looked a heck of a lot like Dolph Ziggler here for a bit. He did not slip off the top ropes, but he's always been able to go, and he and Cody put on a very solid match here.
I love the fact that Snoop Dogg was outside and was playing the role of Arn Anderson, trying to, giving him the play calling of how to wrestle the match and everything. And we
got one of the worst frog splashes ever.
So after the match, because of the fact that I think it was
something like that.
Whatever.
It doesn't matter.
I'm going to stop. And Luther, who was his tag team partner, they got hit during the match by Cody Rhodes by accident. So they came into the ring, started attacking, and then it led to them getting, Luther. And not only did Serpentetico or whatever the fuck it is, be on the receiving end of the worst frog splash, Luther had one of the worst, getting thrown out of the rings I've seen, other than Nia Jax, recently. So they're both going to probably have their own category for the next Marquee Awards.
Sure.
But Snoop Dogg climbed up to the top and hit a frog splash. And my favorite part is Chris Jericho, who's been on commentary the entire night, is like, I hate that guy. I really hate that guy. And and you see Snoop Dogg go over there, and him and Jericho embrace. They have big smiles on, and Snoop Dogg's, embracing everybody. And Chris Jericho goes, he's like, I still hate that guy. And I'm like, this is why you are Chris Jericho and you are the GOAT. Because you do what you do for so long, and you just keep he's God. He's the wrestling God.
Sure.
At the end of the day. He is the GOAT of GOATs, and there's GOAT of more than GOATs have ever goated in the history of GOATs now.
Yeah. All right. So then we had I always forget how to pronounce this. Abaddon going against Hikaru Shida.
Abaddon. That's back-to-back matches. I can't pronounce the person's name right.
So Shida, who has been doing fantastic as women's champion here, goes over in this match, but I do appreciate the look and feel for Abaddon.
One of the things that really stood out for me during the match was how Abaddon had brought Hikaru Shida under the ring with her, and then there was some commotion going on, and it looked like Abaddon actually bit Hikaru Shida.
Right.
And I was like, that would be a good way for her to drop the belt, and it would make a lot of sense. But Hikaru Shida, no problem from me, retains the women's championship. It's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward. I do know that next week that Tay Conte is going to be fighting Serena Deeb for the NWA Women's Championship on the second night of the New Year's spectacle that AEW is doing.
Sure. So. All right, and then in our main event, we had Fenix going against Kenny Omega.
Now, these two have had a long history together. They once upon a time wrestled for the AAA World Heavyweight Championship that Kenny Omega actually has. He took that title from Rey Fenix. They've wrestled on more than one occasion. They've actually wrestled on AEW against each other. No surprise that the two of them had a really great match. Just listening to that garbage that spewed out of Justin Roberts' mouth to start that match,
it's so good.
It's so bad that it's not even good. I can't stand that man. I really cannot stand Kenny Omega. I've never met anybody more overrated at anything in my entire life. I used to think it used to be Tom Brady, but now Tom Brady's leading the Buccaneers tonight to a playoff appearance after leaving the Patriots after 20-some-odd years. So obviously the overrated talk with Brady is gone and buried. Now Kenny Omega has officially acquired that, and I'm even going to pull it up right now because I talked about it myself.
Omega and Fenix had a heck of a match here, and several near falls. And I give Kenny Omega an awful lot of credit here. Omega's been wrestling with a torn labrum for like months now. And it's because they were building towards this storyline, and it's like he's just figuring out a way to keep his body going while they continue this story arc. But he's still going out there and performing at a very high level. And his character right now has been fantastic. I love the shit he's doing right now.
I'm gonna tell you. Yeah, you can give him all the credit for having wrestling with a torn labrum. He's been wrestling with a dirt face for decades. All right. So where's your reasoning behind that and everything? But anyway, this was what he tweeted out. This is what he tweeted out last night. We kicked the year off right. Friends, family, and whoa.
Keep going.
All right. Family and championship gold. Fenix was great too. Nothing but respect. Earned every one of those 5 stars. How many is that now? I've lost count. More importantly, how many of those involved one-winged angle kickouts? None. It's unbeatable. Bragging about imaginary stars that his close friend Meltzer gives him because he is his favorite wrestler, peak AEW quote-unquote star.
We've been doing the show for how long? What do I always tell you? When something happens, keep going.
Yes, you're right. But that was the first
Keep
time that the dog
going.
done it. Yes, you're right. So there, I'm done with Kenny Omega. Omega equals overrated. How great the match was. But at the end of it, he did go over. John Moxley got involved because they looked.
He came out with a bat with barbed wire on it.
And the reason he did that was because it looked like Omega was going to attack Rey Fenix after Pentagon and Pac were both taken out by Eddie Kingston and his crew, because they're setting up for Kingston versus Pac next week.
Yeah.
There's this long storyline with Eddie Kingston with Pentagon and Phoenix. So we got that going on and everything. It looked like Omega was going to take him out. Moxley comes out with the barbed wire bat, which then led to the Good Brothers, Anderson and Gallows, the reigning Impact Tag Team Champions, coming out there and kind of just beating up on John Moxley. And all these wrestlers from around ringside were trying to help because it's a tag team from outside of AEW attacking one of their own. So they were all trying to get involved. Then the Young Bucks came out there and they looked like they were going to try to even the odds a little bit. And they started beating up all those guys from outside the ring. And at the end of the show, we got Kenny Omega, the Good Brothers, and the Young Bucks doing their stupid too sweet type of thing. And of course they were. Of course they were. I'm surprised it took them this long to set up for this stupid thing where they have the freaking the stupid freaking. I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm done. I can't. My brain can't comprehend all of that stuff that I saw last night, or I'm sorry, from Wednesday night and Monday night, and I just can't. This was a very, very stressful week of professional wrestling to watch because as much as I hate Kenny Omega and just seeing all that crap, because I'm like, oh, what are they going to do now with Cody Rhodes? Because Cody Rhodes was in the Bullet Club. Are they going to try to get freaking AJ Styles from WWE? Is there anybody else from the Bullet Club that's available? Is
Marty Skrull.
Is
Marty Skrull.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it goes going forward.
So it was an interesting way to end the show, but based off how you started the show, it seems weird that the Young Bucks did this. The Young Bucks, at least character-wise, have been all over the place. I mean, match-wise, they've been fantastic, but as far as their characters go, it's like, are you up, down, left, right, BA, start? What the hell's going on here? Like
That's contra reference, by the way.
You're welcome. Yeah. But like,
I know.
One week they're one way, another week they're another way. Some weeks they're friends with Hangman Page. Some weeks they're not. And I'm not a big fan of how their characters are all over the frickin' place because it doesn't seem to make sense. So
I had a feeling that we were going to get Shinsuke Nakamura versus Jey Uso next week. I'm glad it's going to be in the main event because like Jey Uso has been killing it, and he deserves all the opportunities he gets, and he's been getting quite a few main events of SmackDown. So I have no problem with it being Jey Uso versus Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm just trying to figure out when Jimmy Uso is coming back. We've only been talking about it for months now, so.
Well, I think we've been all eyeballing the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
I think there might be a point where Roman Reigns has a title match and Jimmy comes and saves the day because maybe they do a stipulation somehow where Captain Cupcake goes against Roman Reigns one more time and
Jey Uso is banned from ringside. But that's not doesn't mean the same thing for Jimmy.
That's right.
Is that Jey Uso? No, it's Jimmy. How do you know? They look identical.
I kicked him in the Jimmy.
Right.
Yeah?
One's taller.
Right.
And weighs like 10 pounds more.
Right.
Wow, Chris Brown. Say goodbye to the Saints tomorrow. Ooh. Probably because they don't have any wide receivers and Alvin Kamara still has COVID.
We shall see.
Even if they are playing the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, Mitch Trubisky might be able to
Stop.
hit water if he falls out of a boat.
And maybe the kicker will hit all three, hit the crossbar and the two side posts.
Triple doink.
Yes.
The coin.
Or pull off the quadruple doink. That'd be great.
The clown.
But, yeah, so that was wrestling for this week.
Yeah.
Something. We didn't miss anything, right?
I think that covers it.
All right, so it's time for the good, the bad,
and the brainless one.
Yeah? So, Cousin Jay, what was your good for this week?
I'm going with Rhea Ripley against Raquel Gonzalez. This was an incredible match. These ladies should be proud, and very early on, match of the year candidate. That's it.
There you go. I'm gonna say that my good goes out to somebody. This was something that happened. Actually, not something that happened this week, but I found out about this week. And my good this week goes out to Tony Khan for the fact that he spent hours and hours making sure that he delivered the perfect show that he could for Brody Lee for their memorial show that they had last week. And the fact that he was up till 2:00 in the morning the night before after he ripped up the script and said it wasn't good enough. And he went out there and he did his pep talk that he gave after the memorial show. And just, I wanted to run through a wall after that. I fucking love Eddie Kingston. And it was good that he did what he did.
Right.
So, what's your bad for this week? I wonder if we're going to have the same one.
Well, my bad for this week is putting Adam Pearce in a title match against Roman Reigns. I know that this is part of the character for Roman Reigns to showcase that he's the head of the table, the tribal chief. But no, he should be going against somebody else. I know that this is like a placeholder so they could prepare the way for the next thing, but no, just no.
For the record, after watching SmackDown last night and on my way over here, I was talking to myself about how I was going to pick that as my bad for this week. And then I saw Snoop Dogg try to do a frog splash from AEW Dynamite because I heard about it, but I hadn't seen it. So Snoop Dogg gets my bad for this week for that horrible, horrible frog splash I saw on Wednesday.
One thing I will say for Snoop Dogg with this, he's been a lifelong wrestling fan.
Yeah.
And it's probably something he's dreamed about doing his whole life, but you could tell he doesn't know how to do it, but like he just wanted to say, you know what? I did a frog splash in front of like 1 million people on national television.
But here's the thing: his frog splash was just as bad as 50 Cent's first pitch.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was close to that bad.
I mean,
even Jeremy Piven, the man who was there for Summerfest or hyping Summerfest, did a better crossbody, even though John Cena caught him. But
it wouldn't surprise me if this led to Sasha getting some heat for Snoop Dogg appearing on AEW. But I get it because Snoop Dogg and Cody Rhodes are on that show together on TNT, so it's like they kind of went hand in hand. He's just a wrestling fan at the end of the day.
Chris, I don't think Sasha will be getting heat from corporate about that, and I'll just sum it up in 2 words. The Mandalorian. If she did not get all the hype that she got from The Mandalorian, maybe so. Maybe they'd try to find a way to be petty and knock her down a few pegs, but they have the championship on her, and in part that has to do with her being on The Mandalorian and getting them some press from outside of wrestling dirt sheets.
Yes.
So,
and right now, The Mandalorian is one of the hottest things in entertainment, too.
So yeah, there's that.
Yeah?
Yeah!
So, Cousin Jay, what is your favorite part, the brainless?
My brainless is definitely going to what happened with Drew McIntyre and Goldberg on Monday. And this does not have anything to do with the fact that we're getting Drew McIntyre versus Bill Goldberg. It's the storyline that they built on Monday for Legends Night, and they totally, they had a logical way to go, and then they had a Vince McMahon way to go, and they took the Vince McMahon way because
the shirt says so.
It's such good shit. And that's why if you you're tuning in on the YouTube stream, you'll see that the screen capture, that I used to promote the show is Vince McMahon. It's such good shit, pal. And honestly, with how stupid WWE was this week, that's why I had to wear this shirt.
I just wanted to wear my Undertaker shirt again because nobody.
Well, yeah. Was it because Teddy Long ended up talking about it? I mean, you had another shirt available to you today that was, I would say, as good. Oh,
it's gonna make an appearance on the podcast for sure because it's now gonna be in my heavy duty rotational of shirts. So
yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. It's like, you have Randy Orton. He's going out there disrespecting all the legends backstage. And then Goldberg challenges McIntyre because he's disrespecting legends. So that's prototypical WWE booking. But
They could have literally just changed the script to say, not say it like this exactly, but you're the biggest dog in the yard. I want the title. Instead of saying, you've been crapping on legends. Like,
you're the legend killer? Well, I'm the legend that kills, or some shit like that.
You're the legend killer? I played Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Kill that legend. So, anyway, yeah.
Christmas sleigh.
Santa's Sleigh. One of the greatest holiday movies starring a WWE superstar. Current WWE superstar. Anyway.
WWE Hall of Famer.
WWE Hall of Famer, indeed. Anyway.
So, if you like what you've seen, whether this is your first time watching us or if you're a continuous fan like FMR's Hall of Famer Chris Brown, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N, MARKS, the F and Marks. If you like, follow and subscribe to us. We will do the same back, and it's always been our mantra.
And we're also we go live every week from Facebook.com / All Elite Marks, the All Elite Marks page. Lots of good, fun content on there. But set up the notifications on that page for when they do live videos, and whenever there's a live video, which is us, you'll be notified. So make sure you set up those notifications.
Because nothing will brighten your Saturday better than seeing this beautiful mug right in your face.
Yeah. So
I think that's it.
I think we're good. I think we've hit on everything that is essential to this podcast. Yeah.
Wait. There's one more thing.
What is that one thing, Cousin Bobby?
That's because, Cousin Jay, and today, January 9th of 2021, after Mark's Hall of Famer Curtis Axel is still alive, like 2,169 days in 2015 Royal Rumble. I have to talk to
1,176 days, right?
I doubly fucked myself over this time. I was like, don't worry.
176.
I said, don't worry. I said to myself, I'm like, I'm not going to mark it up on the board. I'm going to know it at 7 to 69. Maybe I just wanted to say 69. You ever think about that? Yeah. Anyway, episode 205 of the Underwater Podcast.
I'm Jay.
And always and forever, I am the brainless one. Make sure you mark out
With the walkout. See you, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And have a good week.
Yeah.
Talk with you later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.